a boundary around your husband speaking kindly to you? I'm Sterling Jakewith, a Catholic mom coach, and this question came up in our membership recently. And I thought it was such a great question. And she was saying she asked her husband if he could speak more kindly to her. And he said, well, why should I have to suppress my feelings? Okay, so I want to break this down. So first, when we describe the way we want someone to speak to us, a lot of times we're just using opinion words, right? What does kinder mean? He might think he's being kind. I remember when I got married, my husband, and this was maybe 5 years into our marriage. So 5 years, which means our oldest daughter would have been 4. And I remember the time that he said, shut up. And I was like, okay. I think he was saying it to her. He had never said that to me. And I was just like, oh, that's unacceptable. Like, we don't use that phrase. This is how I was feeling. I grew up in a house where that was, I don't think ever said. Right. And he grew up, and my husband's pretty polite. Like, he doesn't have a trash mouth. In general, he's pretty respectful. But clearly in his house, it was just okay to use that phrase. That's it. It was just like, he grew up in a house where that was okay. I grew up in a house where that was very much not okay. And so we had to talk about that, and we had to decide what our family was going to do. So it's just an opinion, and it might be a widely held opinion, right? Like, we could poll 100 people, and 100 people would say, oh yeah, it's rude to say shut up. And then, 10 of them might be like, I don't know, it's not a big deal to me. So it's just an opinion. What does kinder mean? We often want our husbands not to yell at us. Well, what does yelling mean? Is it any raised voice? Because we speak with great passion sometimes, but men are kind of like big and loud and barky. Now, I'm not saying it's totally fine to let someone yell at you. I'm just saying where the line falls between talking, impassionate speech, slightly raised voice, and yelling, that line is at different places for different people. Okay? So when we're expressing boundaries to someone, a boundary has to have a consequence, and you have to be willing to enforce it. And so you might say, I would like it if you would speak more kindly to me. And if at some point I feel threatened or shut down or rejected, there's a feeling you're having when he's speaking in the way that you are perceiving as unkind. You'll have a feeling. So you can just say, when I feel this way, I'm just going to walk away. I'm just going to say, this conversation is done for me. Now, he might not like that. And you're like, that's okay. You are welcome to have whatever feelings you want. That's the point he's trying to make, right? Which is true, by the way. We don't want to tell people that they don't have the valid reasons to have their feelings. People are going to have their feelings. Absolutely, husband, you can have strong feelings. I just may not stick around to be there while you're talking to me from the place of those strong feelings. I love you. I want to communicate with you, because both of you desire connection. Something about the way he's speaking to you makes you feel disconnection, and then you controlling the way that he speaks is creating disconnection for him. So both of you want the same thing. You both want connection. And he's saying, hey, don't control the way that I speak. And you're saying, I want you to be more kind. But the boundary around that is really just, if you speak to me like this, I'm going to walk away. It is fair that you could even give a warning. And the thing about boundaries is, we don't want to enforce them with like bitterness or anger or passive aggressiveness or like sarcasm. You just want to say, you know what? I don't love the way that you're speaking to me right now. I'm going to go do something else. Let's cool off. Or I need to calm down. He may not need to cool off. And we'll resume this conversation later. Now, there are different tools that you would use if you guys are chronically like screaming at each other and having a lot of challenges. My husband and I have a very intense relationship, not screaming, but we can have some pretty serious and negative and hurtful conversations. And we've come a long way in 12 years. But there are different tools if that's the situation that we're talking about. I didn't get the impression from this mom that that's what she was talking about. I think she just said, hey, sometimes I want you to speak more kindly to me. And she didn't know how to set a boundary around that. Now, she said, I just feel like I'm not being heard, probably in general. And then also on this, could you speak more kindly to me thing? And I just want you to know, it's not necessary for him to understand. what you're talking about to have the boundary. So again, your definition of kind is maybe different than his, and he doesn't need to understand it. You can just say, oh, you can just tell him, oh, we've already crossed that moment. You could say, if it keeps going like this, I'm going to leave. Or you could just say, we've crossed that moment, I'm going to leave. Enforcing the boundary, even with a warning, feels the same to me, depending on the kind of thing, right? And so that's it. It's just your experience of that. And when you leave, you can have empathy for him. I wonder what's going on with that guy. Because normally he's nice and he speaks kindly to me, so something's going on with him that's probably not about me. He's having his own thoughts. So I hope that's helpful about setting boundaries around the way your husband speaks to you. Thank you so much for listening and have a blessed day. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Catholic Mom Mindset. To learn more about growing closer to the Holy Spirit, check out our free resources at madeforgreatness.co. Thank you so much for listening and have a blessed day.